a surprise for you.
Huh? Who? What?
Huh?
Hey guys, so today we'll be addressing who my father is, and he's right here in this seat. So we'll be asking him why he left my family and why he abandoned me. Oh, this is so personal. But no, today we'll be talking about divorce. And like, I would say this is a very difficult topic because I talk about it a lot in therapy, and I just like hate being so like sappy about it. It makes me feel so lame. Yeah, so when did your parents split?
I think it was around 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think it took a few years. So I think it started a bit earlier and ended a bit later, but around that time span.
Okay, so my parents split when I was 3, and I think I never processed like the impact of the divorce. I think until like I was in my early 20s. I would say I just like totally blocked it out. I think it's just like as a kid you just have no idea what the fuck's going on anyway.
Yeah.
So I just assumed that it was normal, and like my mom also took on the role of being a father. To me, she's more of my dad than my mom. She's not really like super nurturing and like caring. She raised me up to be like a strong woman, so like always teaching me how to be independent and like not depend on others like a man. It does really impact you on a psychological level though.
Of course.
I was just so scared of ending up alone like my mom in my early years of my life, so I always like jumped in and out of relationships. But it does really affect, like I was really anxious. I always like second guess myself. I have a lot of like toxic thoughts. I always have to prove my worth to men, because I think maybe like psychologically I always thought that my dad left because I wasn't good enough, kind of thing. Oh my god, I don't want to cry this episode. Yeah, I would say like now I'm in a much better place than I was, because I know how it has shaped me as a person. And like when I was single, I'm like drawn to like drama men, like bad guys. Yeah, it was like a way to like escape reality or like close up like a wound that my dad gave to me, because my dad wasn't like a great guy either. My mom told me correctly, my dad was like an alcoholic and they always fought. So I think she also carries this like hurt of men not being like reliable or safe. So she always told me like growing up to never trust any man.
Like you were saying that like you would get into a lot of relationships. For me it was the opposite. Like I didn't get into any relationships, and like I didn't date for the longest time. And at the time I thought it was because I genuinely didn't want to, and to an extent I think I genuinely didn't want to. But now looking back, I wonder if it's like because I never saw relationships as a good thing. Because
yeah, like sustainable, right?
my parents' relationship, I guess, ended, right? So, and then, like I said in the last episode, I had a lot of friends also, like, gone in relationships and then, like, became bad friends because of it. So, fundamentally, my experience with people's relationships around me was that it was a negative thing. And so, I was like, I don't want to get into that. Like, why would I get into that? It's going to end up in, like, you distancing yourself from everyone around you and then breaking up,
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah, I had a similar idea about like relationships also. It's like, oh, they're just gonna end anyway, so why be serious? Because it's never going to last. Like my parents never lasted anyway.
Yeah, I think all kids of divorce have a wild episode because like
yeah, it's like a cry for help, to be honest.
But I also think it's like you said, it's like I think you all go through that phase. Everyone goes through that phase where they're like, well, it's not like an actual relationship will be any great anyway, so may as well have fun.
Yeah, and
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I think like I needed to go through it to realize that actually like dating all these like horrible men made me feel like even worse. Oh my god, this is so cliche, but like Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City, she basically went to therapy once. The therapist was like, do you realize that all these men that you've dated, the one thing they have in common is you? So like she was like, oh my god. So I realized that, oh, actually I cannot keep putting the blame on the guys. I keep assuming that all men are bad. That's why I pick bad men. I don't give like nice guys a shot. And I feel a lot of girls who are like children of divorce, because of the lack of like a father. For example, like if your dad like divorced but he always provided money, like you overemphasize on other things. Like that's what my therapist told me actually.
Oh, like you'll see like that's like the avenue of getting like love from someone, and then you'll just look for that.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, like getting money is love. So yeah, I had to like realize myself like what a good man is. My mom didn't really teach me that either, because she also has this like assumption that all men are shit. Like she literally says this all the time, but I mean I don't blame her, because like what she went
through it, right?
Yeah, what she went through with my dad was hard. Like, and I think on top of that, like she had to like go through a lot of racism with his side of the family as well. And back in the day, I think like a lot of other parents were not supportive of like divorcee families. So when I was a kid, I always just said like my dad just doesn't live here, like just to escape the conversation. And my mom wouldn't really show up for like parent-teacher meetings because I think she just didn't want to feel the judgment from like other women. But yeah, it really does like affect you on like a subconscious level. And then it also led me to be very anxious around men because I like kind of put them on a pedestal, like as a kid would put their father. Yeah, so like things that I wanted in a dad, I would search for in my boyfriend. Yeah.
Daddy issues. We all have some daddy issues.
We all have daddy issues lah. And I realized actually the problem lies with me because of what I learned from my parents. I think I used to be like resentful towards like my dad or like my mom for not staying together, but I just came to the realization that sometimes having no dad is better than having like a shitty co-parenting situation.
Oh my god, 100%. Like to an extent it's like it's shitty, but like it also teaches you that like you don't stay in shitty situations and there's always better out there. Where sometimes I feel like people who stay in unhappy relationships are just teaching their kids that like when things are shitty you just stay in it and that's all you get. And like that's life.
And life's shit.
And you don't walk away and look for better. So to an extent I'm also like, damn, I love that. Like if something's bad I can walk away, you know. But do you ever feel like you maybe question whether you could have a soulmate because you like never had that example set for you?
I used to ponder about that a lot, and then I realized that these thoughts are not really serving me because I get worried about something that is not even happening. Like when it happens I deal with it, you know what I mean? So I like it.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, because I think when you're like child of divorce, you always have this like anxiety that things will not work out or something bad might happen because you don't have like that sense of security like you needed growing up. So for me, I had to learn how to acknowledge that the anxiety is there. Yes, I fear that things might not work out, but I try my best to just like focus on the now. What's your attachment style actually in relationships? I'm quite curious.
I fluctuate between anxious and detached.
Ah, okay. I can sense the detachment from you though.
The detachment comes from like linking to divorced parents. Like I've always had to find my foundation in like relationshipy stuff, right? So like I said, like in the previous episode, like friends and things like that. We grow up faster. We like you have to like do a lot of self-reflection, blah 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 blah. I found my secure bubble in all of that. That's something when it comes to like dating and relationships. I'm like detached because I'm like I can always go back to that safe space, but it's not good necessarily, right? But like my comfort is in that space. So I'll sometimes just you know.
Yeah, but initially like with avoidant guys, I was very anxious. I was always like reaching out, like trying to make things work, or like being very forceful when like the vibe wasn't there. Indirectly like replicating like me trying to get the attention of my avoidant dad, because my dad, we only met like a handful of times growing up. Like he was never really in my life, and he always say that he would like meet me but then never meet me in the end. And I always ask my mom like how come, like why like this. And then my mom was like, you know, I don't know why. Like, I never stopped him from, like, meeting us. The period where, like, I called things off with my dad was basically, he would, like, text me from time to time. Then we would, like, chat. So he ended up, like, talking shit about my mom on, like, one of my posts. And my mom saw, he put my mom's name, is a good mom but a bad wife. Then my mom saw, obviously, she, like, flipped lah. Then she was like, you can't talk to him anymore, blah, 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 blah. Then I decided to like cut contact with my dad. Then I did it like out of the understanding of not wanting him in my life because he hurt my mom. But now I realize that like he doesn't deserve the ability to like hurt my family, you know. He wasn't even there. Do you feel a lot of like shame when you were like growing up from a divorced family, like around you?
Yeah, I think when it first happened, like now I think it's a lot more normalized. But I remember like telling my school friends like, oh, my parents are getting divorced, and like they were all like the world's over. They looked at you with such pity, which looking back, I hate it because I'm like that probably made me feel so much worse. I think for years I was like, maybe not, I don't know if I want to say embarrassed about it, but it was like I just want to bring it up because I knew it would come with this whole like thing that I don't want to like, you know, I don't need your like, you know.
But yeah, I think when, especially like being in Singapore, like divorce back then wasn't that normalized. So when your parents split, it was like, oh my god, like are you okay? Like I think it was coming from a place of concern, but at the same time they're also like low-key judging you, like like sometimes
and
the
it's
parents,
a gossip thing. Like kids will talk and they'll be like, oh my god, like Edo's parents.
And then sometimes
like,
they'll try to like pull out information like why your parents split and stuff like that.
And as a kid, like, you also don't know how to like process that, and then having to tell other kids who then will also go talk. Oh my god, horrible.
The people that ask don't even care that much. You know what I mean? So I just like save my energy. So so I didn't really talk about it.
I also feel like I blocked off a lot of memories from that phase. Because like
I blocked out most of my childhood, to be honest.
yeah, I'm sure like when our bodies have our own way of dealing with it, right? And it's just
Yeah, it's apparently just a response because like
Yeah.
your brain doesn't want to process these things because they are like too
Yeah.
traumatic, which makes sense lah.
oh my god, I don't know if this is also like because I'm a child of divorce, but like you know how they always say relationships like over time, like you get over the honeymoon phase, it becomes like a lot more like tedious and hard, and like that is like my not my biggest fear, but I'm always like, how do you like do that? And also in the same way, it's like on one hand it's like I know you shouldn't stay in a situation that's bad for too long because like that doesn't bring you anywhere and eventually it's just going to lead to more heartache. So right, my instinct is like if something's really bad and you've tried, you should exit, but then at the same time you also have to like work on things, right? You can't like
Definitely.
just exit the moment things get difficult. But I think I'm very bad at that. I find it a lot more difficult to articulate my needs and wants, or just in general.
Do you know why?
I actually don't. But to
Like-
be honest, I've never been in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have
okay.
a lot of experience with it. But even when I'm just like dating,
It's
like,
crazy because you're such a lovable person, so I would think that you have like.
But for the longest time, I didn't date or didn't want a
Yeah,
relationship. Like I'm 26, and I think I only started kind of actively dating in the last few years.
Yeah.
Because like part of it's like I didn't want a relationship, but part of it's like I had so much like self-discovery that I needed to do. So then
Maybe fear also.
100%.
Yeah. I also assume this that you have to like develop yourself. Obviously you need to get to know yourself to a certain capacity. But people naturally change, but you can change and grow together.
Yeah.
But to me I didn't think that was even possible. Like if you change and become a completely different person, you have to break up. So I was like freaking out about it in my head. Then I realized no like as long as you just communicate your wants and needs, like things work out. I have to assume that things work out. Yeah. I don't want to
Yes.
like be a negative person, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah. Then if like you just kind of self-sabotage
That's
indirectly.
kind of where I'm entering. The headspace I'm trying to enter now is just like take any experience versus be afraid of it.
Yeah, like this relationship that I'm in is so different from like every guy I've been with. Like the other day, he like congratulated me for hitting like 200k on IG. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Aww.
But yeah, it really like touched me because like my mom is not the kind to like cheer me on.
Yeah.
And my dad's just completely like fuck off. And then like all the guys I've been with, they're always like avoidant or they like
Yeah.
don't care about me or they're just very like in the background like passive. So this is like a nice change. So I realized that actually like to usher in some positivity in your life you also need to change. And I realized that a lot of things about myself that were unhealthy. Side note, do you want to get married?
I'm not against it. Sometimes I really question if there's like a soulmate there. As in a forever soulmate. I feel like soulmates can have like moments. But my fear with marriage is that like what if this person's not like my forever person? But you'll never know. So like I think I'm trying to get into a mindset where I tell myself just live in the moment. So if in the moment I feel like I want to get married, then I'll get married.
I definitely want to get married. But I also stress about like, what if things don't work out? Then I have to like divorce and I don't want that. I don't want to go through that.
Are you afraid of divorce because you
I think because like my parents split and then like my mom being a single mom really did affect my childhood a lot, so I don't want them to experience that. So obviously I put
But
a
at
lot
the
of
same
pressure.
time, you know that like it's not the end of the world if someone gets
Yeah.
divorced. Like I have two sisters, so I feel like it was really nice in a way having like other people going through the same thing and like. But you were like an only child, so like, how was that?
I would say I didn't have anyone to confide in.
So do you feel like it was very like all in your head in a way? Like you were all because everything must be really like.
So like for me, I couldn't really confide in my mom because my mom was like so
Yeah, but
stressed
also
out.
age
Difference. And my mom is quite scary lah. So like when I was growing up, I was like really scared of my mom. So I didn't really have that relationship with her. Then my dad also MIA, so I couldn't confide in him. And then friends around me, I didn't really trust because I felt like I couldn't really talk
But they'll
to
judge
them
you.
about it.
Like for me, like well, not to be like I had this and you didn't, but like the saving grace kind of of my childhood was having two sisters. So at
Yeah,
least
I
like
think
in
it
all
really
of that, you still have
helps.
like another kid to play with at home and like
Talk to.
and. Well, I mean, when you're like 10, I feel like none of us knew what the fuck was going on, so like we weren't really talking about it. But I guess
Yeah.
just knowing that someone else is going through it as well.
Yeah. I think like it's traumatic not having like a father figure in my life. But at the same time, I think I don't want to deny myself. Like, you know, like it shaped me to become who I am. And like I'm very proud of myself today. And it gave me a lot of like self-awareness that I think I wouldn't have if I grew up in a different situation. And I'm also like happy that my parents split because I cannot imagine like growing up in a
Right.
household like where my parents hated each other.
Yeah.
Like, can you, like, and especially me being the only child, like, oh my goodness, I think I would be like
Oh my god.
crazy Yeah, and my dad was like, I assume that he's an alcoholic lah, so I don't know if like seeing that kind of behavior normalized from young, maybe it will rub off on me, or like, because my parents, when they fought, my mom would tell me briefly that it can be quite violent. So I am thankful that my mom was strong enough to leave that situation and not like stick through it because she felt the need to have this perfect family image. What's your silver lining?
I think that, I mean, like, I just came up with it, but I feel like to an extent it's like I've never been too obsessed with living life in a way that conforms to traditional society around me. Because like my family from the get-go was not a traditional, because like when my parents got divorced, even my other relatives or like my grandparents were very like no, you know, and they both like they just did it anyway. So I think that kind of taught me from a young age, like, oh, like you live life on like what's right for you. And I think that's probably like what I'm so grateful for.
Okay, we're like basically at the end of the episode, and to summarize, I think I would tell my younger audience and my younger self that like everything happens for a reason, so don't beat yourself up too much and just try your best to love yourself regardless of what's being thrown at you, even though you might be feeling like pretty shit. And it's okay to feel like shit. The shittiness kind of shapes the good also. But I think if you need help, definitely do seek help lah. That's really important.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like don't do anything that you might regret, like self-harm or like any addictions.
What I would tell people, or my younger self as well, is that like everyone's life and stories have ups and downs, and the most incredible people in this world, some of the most like talented and amazing people, have had, you know, crazy ups and downs as well. So just embrace your story.
I think also don't compare your life to like other people's.
100%.
Oh my god, I used to do that a lot, like idolize like what other people have, and then it just made me feel like even worse. But the older I get, the more I realize like actually everyone has their own problems.
Yeah, everyone. And like even
no
kids who don't have divorce have something else.
No one's life is perfect. So stop like idolizing shit. It really does help. Thank you for watching this episode of Big Sis.
If you have anything you want to discuss, let us know in the comments.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to my dad.